PTF and Matt Bernier here to talk about the Travers Day all Grade 1 Pick 6. It starts off in race number 7 at 3:02 Eastern with the Grade 1 Ballerina. And this is a race I think many are going to be willing to cede to the favorite. I think I'm going to try to get a little bit clever. But Matt, what do you think? How are you looking to kick off this all Grade 1 Pick 6?
I think it's a good group of fillies and mares, 7/8. Keep in mind, this is the same distance as the Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint, so you can probably get a little bit of signal here as far as that race is concerned, just a couple months away now. As much as I appreciate CC, and I think Wisconsin is very talented, even a horse like Lake Avenue that I've been a big fan of for a long time, who's going to go with Gamine early? If Gamine shows up to me with her A- race, simply put, it's just better than what anybody else is capable of doing. I respect the other fillies and mares. It would have been nice if someone else had some legitimate early foot to go with Gamine. But if she breaks and goes right to the front, I think it's come and catch me. I think she's going to get the job done.
I'm definitely going to have plenty of ones on my tickets. There's no doubt that her, like you said, A-, yeah, that's going to get it done. But she's clearly had issues. Now, I know just the fact that she's showing up here with the potential, for what the news story is going to be, being trained by Bob Baffert, etc., you know she's got to be loaded for bear. But I'll tell you what, I don't think CC is that far behind her. She's a multiple grade winner. I think the 7 is her ideal distance. She might need a little help on the front end to keep Gamine honest. But I think for me, she's going to be the bet at the prices. Now, I'm not getting knocked out of my pick 6 if Gamine wins, but I give CC a real look in here, and I made her my theoretical top pick. Any comments on her?
No, I think this is what she's wanted. I think she's a one-turn kind of horse, whether it's 7/8 or even a one-turn mile. I know that's really not available readily for fillies and mares, but this is her game. The question is, it's twofold. The pace situation, is she going to be the one that actually has to be in closest attendance to Gamine? And if that's the case, I don't like that scenario for her. And then there is a part of me, too, as much as I like her and I respect her, she's got effectively 2 races that put her on par, I think, with Gamine. Now, maybe as a 5-year-old mare, she's finally putting it all together, and she's going to bounce back from that Princess Rooney, which to me was arguably the best race she's ever run. Maybe she can put together another one up at Saratoga. To your point, it depends on what kind of price you get. I don't think I would want much less than that 4-1 morning line that David Aragona has assigned to her.
Race number 8 is the Grade 1 4-go, 7 furlongs on the Saratoga dirt. Not a whole lot of speed signed on for a Grade 1 sprint. How are you approaching it, Matt?
This is a division, just the older boys. They kind of take turns beating one another. Nobody really wants to assert themselves. And we'll get to the 3-year-old boys in a moment. I think they're actually the class of this group. But it's hard for me not to look at a horse like Yopon and say, if he runs his best race, purely, I think his best is better than anyone else's best. I can go through and start trying to make excuses for different horses. Whitmore, give him a mulligan for the Vanderbilt. He didn't run poorly, but I think he's actually better than what we saw there. And we know on his best day, he can still show up with a big, big effort. Mischievous Alex, I think you and I are kind of in agreement. Although he comes out of, the Met Mile 2 starts back, which ended up being a very, very live race. The Vanderbilt just was not very good. And what do you want to do with that? Some of the other horses in here, Lexitonian, I tweeted about it last night. I go, it's crazy to me that he's a nose and a head away from being a 3-time Grade 1 winner. He's not the most consistent type, but when he shows up with his race, he runs his race. So I wouldn't fault anybody there. Mind Control, I think Todd did a masterful job getting him ready to go in that run down at Belmont Park in the Nehrude. There's a part of me, maybe this is unfair. I want him to do it again to prove that he is actually of that caliber. Long-winded way of saying, I just think Yopon's best is better than anybody else's. I'm going to go with him.
I can see it. I have him in the mix. I think it's a bit of a class test, but there is a scenario, certainly, where he proves the best speed and just keeps on going. Not one I want to get beat by. I picked Whitmore. I don't pick Whitmore very often, but in my line, I was happy with my line in my write-up. I say he's listed in your program as an 8-year-old gelding, but he's really a unicorn. And what I mean by that is, how many horses do you know who've been running at the top levels for this long and just throwing so many punches? And even when they don't win, he pretty much runs his race every time. I thought there was a scenario. Now, I know I said, according to the pace projector, it does look like Yopon has a chance to be out there. But you got to figure Lexitonian is going to be incredibly aggressively ridden, given the success that front-running tactics had last time. I could see Firenze Fire maybe getting into the mix a little bit early. I can see a world in which this race is run to suit Whitmore. I wanted him, and I was going to do just a tiny little, tiniest percentage for horizontals, but definitely some third in the try type action on the 5 doubly blessed. And this is a reach, no doubt, but this horse is going to be an absolutely massive price, and I think has some good finishing ability. And if things do heat up unexpectedly, I think doubly piece could get doubly blessed could get a little bit of a piece at a price. So those were my numbers in this spot. I called it 2, 7, and 5 in the forego. You mentioned the Jerkins. We teased it before. This unbelievable clash between Jackie's Warrior and Life is Good. In many ways, it looks like the race of the meet. I'm kind of buying into this Life is Good hype, and it's just also down to the fact that the numbers this horse was running early in the year, if he's trained on, like even if he hasn't trained on, he's still probably faster than Jackie's Warrior. And if he's trained on a little, and he might have trained on a lot, I think he's supposed to win. Jackie's Warrior, I like him. I respect him. He'll be on some tickets, but Life is Good is my pick in the Jerkins. Where are you?
This may be a little bit of a cop-out, but I mentioned it on my pod a couple weeks ago. I was never all the way in on Jackie's Warrior, but I thought his Amsterdam was just so unbelievably good against a good horse and Drain the Clock that he just said, get out of here. I'm going on with it today. I fully believe in his ability. I wonder from a pace standpoint how this thing is going to shake down, because he's got to go. Drain the Clock's got to go. You look at some of these other runners in here, it's not like they're slow early. I think they're going to go a pretty legitimate pace. You brought up Life is Good. He's never passed anyone before. And I'm not suggesting he can't do it, but he's never done it. And that's just a fact of the matter. Until he does it, that's at least going to be in the back of my head. Are we, I don't want to say dismissing Following C too quickly. Following C, keep in mind, he was the kind of horse, and unless something has changed, he's not going to go. Look, they're both coming out of Todd's barn. This is a situation where you're running the big horse, Life is Good. You still come back here, you turn him back to a one-turn configuration. That, to me, they tried the Haskell, it didn't work. I don't know. I wouldn't totally write off a horse like this if they do end up going here in this spot, simply because I thought his one-turn races have been outstanding, and I wouldn't be stunned at all if he ends up kind of slipping through the cracks a little bit.
He's ideally suited for the cutback. I listed him third in my picks, and I think he's an excellent candidate for your verticals because, Jackie and Life is Good can't run 1, 2, and 3. So, and he definitely is the other interesting horse. I think in a normal King's Bishop, he'd be a fantastic Wise Guy horse. I just think he's got a bit to find with those top two. We'll see how it all shakes out in the Jerkins. I'm really looking forward to that one, which brings us to the Grade 1 Personal Ensign. 4 and up fillies and mares going 1 1/8 miles on the Saratoga dirt. Who'd you end up with in here?
As awesome as the Jerkins is, this may be the race that I'm most looking forward to, because you've got, for the most part, you've got the big girls in the distaff division. You've got Latruska. You've got Swiss Skydiver in here. You've got a horse like Bonnie South, who she's shown glimpses in the past. As time goes by, she had a terrible start at Del Mar and that Clement L. Hirsch more or less draw a line through that. I don't know. I go through this thing a few different times, and I think pace is important. You want to be forward going 9 furlongs, but if too many of them decide that they want to have that same piece of real estate, does it help set it up from someone for a little bit farther off of it? And look, I get it. She's slow right now, and maybe she's just not this good from a class standpoint. I just think Graceful Princess is a little interesting for Todd. On the far outside, no bargain, trying to break from out there. Johnny takes them out because Joelle stays aboard Royal Flag. I thought the run in the Molly Pitcher was really good. She was wide throughout. I loved how determined she was. I know that was a bit of a 3-horse blanket, but Beijing Girl came back and earned an 86 in her next start. There's a part of me that wonders, draw a line through that Obeah because she just can't stand up on a wet track. Her 2-turn fast dirt trips here in 2021, they've both been really, really good. And I happen to think she's a little better from off of it as opposed to going out and cutting out the fractions like she did in the Double Dog Dare when both Bonnie South and Royal Flag went by her. I just think at a big price, maybe she can't win the whole thing, but I would certainly want to be using her underneath. I want to give Graceful Princess a look.
We're going to do a reset within a reset here, Matt.
No.
I'm going to do a little thing no, it's all good. I'm going to do a little thing to tee this up for Breeders' Cup social media. And then, so I'm going to do mine quick and then throw it back to you just to give like a 2-sentence version of yours, if
Perfect.
you like that. PTF and Matt Bernier here for the Breeders' Cup, part of our Horseplayer Happy Hour shows. You can participate over at horseplayers.com. We're here to talk about Grade 1 action at Saratoga on this Saturday in the Grade 1 Personal Ensign. This is a win and you're in race for the Breeders' Cup Distaff. And I'm going to go with the most famous horse in the race, I'm going to call her. Is she the best horse in the race? I don't know. But I'm a huge Swiss Skydiver fan. And when I look through her form, I see excuses in over her head in the Whitney. I wasn't wild about the ride that she got. I didn't think she had a good trip, particularly in the Apple Blossom. When you X out those races, you see a really good filly who still has some upside. I definitely understand the case for Latruska. She's been so good this year. Could have the pace edge. Will be in the mix somewhere. Royal Flag gets a little bit of a class test, but very solid on figures. Should be a good price, and I still think is a win candidate. But I'm going to key around Swiss Skydiver in this spot. But, Matt, I know you've got an interesting long shot to throw in the mix as well.
Well, look, I mean, the heavyweights of the division are in this race. Latruska, Swiss Skydiver, Royal Flag, Bonnie South when she shows up with her best run. Coming in from the West Coast for Baffert, you've got as time goes by. I just think many of those girls want to occupy the same piece of real estate. And if that's the case and things heat up a little bit on the front, I recognize maybe she's not classy enough. Maybe she's not fast enough right now. But Graceful Princess for Todd, I think she's at least worth considering underneath. Maybe she can't win the whole thing. I'll probably have a few dollars on her, but I think she can round out an exacta or a try at a big number. I thought the Molly Pitcher was a really good effort. She was wide throughout and just really kicked on determinedly down the lane. Draw a line through that Obeah 2 starts back at Delaware. It was a sloppy sealed track. She can't stand up on a wet track. Her 2 fast strip starts here in 2021, the Double Dog Dare and the Molly Pitcher, they were both competitive. In the Double Dog Dare, frankly, I don't think she wants to be on the lead. I think she would rather be the one to sit off of a target and come with her run. Johnny takes them out here. She's won at Saratoga in the past. Her mom was pretty good, Hop to Grace. I want to give her a look in here at a big number. So Graceful Princess for me. No disrespect to the other big names in here, but I want to shop around and get a little creative.
Can't wait for the Grade 1 Personal Ensign win and you're in action for the Breeders' Cup on Saturday, which brings us to another Breeders' Cup win and you're in race. It's the Grade 1 Sword Dancer, 4-year-olds and up, going 1 1/8 miles on the inner turf at the Spa. I'm going with the Invader, Japan. This is a horse who it wasn't clear if he'd done much training on, but seems to have gotten back on the good foot with the Grade 3, Group 3, I should say, win at Leopardstown just 44 days ago. I think if he's back anywhere near his best form wins this race. Now, the O'Briens, especially the Galileos, they're not always suited to tight turns like the Sword Dancer, like the inner here at Saratoga. They're strong gallopers. Typically, they're not horses that have a quicken. But I think this race should be run at enough of a clip to suit him. I think on class, he's simply the horse to beat. I will be mixing in a little bit of Channel Maker. I feel that I was not thrilled after the last race, but looking back, was attending a fast pace, and it was off a layoff. Has previous races good enough. I'm going to play the 6 Japan using a little bit of Channel Maker and a little bit of your boy, Matt Treboeven, the 1. Looks like potential best speed and dangerous off that basis. I was going to try to get out 6, 4, and 1 in the Sword Dancer. How did you see it?
But before I offer up my opinion with Japan, is it as simple as last year he took on far superior? This year, I don't know what you want to make of it. Maybe he doesn't love the ground. I'm with you. I mean, his 2019 form, his 3-year-old campaign, I think it puts him right there. Just you being the Euro expert, what's the sort of thought behind him here coming to the States now?
It might be that they still have doubts about his ability to compete at the upper levels over there. So, he's going to look a lot better shipping west and facing inferior competition. So, I mean, I think, and in terms of a horse's value, a Grade 1 is kind of a Grade 1, and that they must believe that they still have some stallion making to do with this horse. While he is a Group 1 winner, multiple Group 1 winner, the fact that they've kept him in training, maybe they think he's got a little bit more to accomplish. Maybe they think he runs well here. He can come and stand here too. There could be some other levers at play. It's certainly an economic decision based on class and the big picture of this runner's future.
Look, maybe I'm getting a little overzealous and I'm feeling frisky here. You brought it up. I like Treboeven. I've liked him for a long time now. Not only do I like him, I'm starting to get a little look over there saying, does he have a chance to Highland reel the field in the Breeders' Cup turf? Because realistically, who else is going to go if it's not Channel Maker? And to me, this is a pretty important race for Channel Maker. He loves Saratoga. He's won this race in the past, or run well in it anyway, I should say. He's the kind of horse that if he doesn't come back with his best race, and he did, in fact, win this race last year by open lengths, if he doesn't run his best, you got to start to wonder if at 7 years old, maybe he's lost a little bit on the fastball. You take him out of this division, who else is going to go the speed or the kind of tempo early on that Tribhuvan can? And I think the thing that I like the most about him, I think too many people are of the impression that he's a need the lead type. I maintain if Channel Maker is just absolutely hell-bent on making the lead, go ahead. Sit just off him. Be the one to get first run. He's shown in the past that he can kick and pass horses. I'm just, again, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. But the more and more I start looking at these things, I go, who's going to run with him in these biggest races? We've talked about it. It's been a major issue in the United States in general. Long-distance turf racing, nobody wants to go. You know where this horse is going to be. He's going to be, if not outright on the lead, just off of it. He's going to get the jump on anyone trying to rally from the back of it. And I've said it so many times. If you're going to be the kind of horse that is rallying from way out of it, and I'm basically looking at Gufo. Maybe he'll win on Saturday. But you need to be able to kick so much harder than the horse who's going to start 5 or 6 lengths in front of you that you're just that far superior. And to me, I don't even know if I believe that Gufo is actually better than Tribhuvan. I think Tribhuvan is a legitimate grade 1 class, top of the just upper echelon kind of turf runner. I think he wins this race, whether it's on the lead or sitting just off. And I think after that, people are going to start to look around and say, wait a minute, maybe he's, domestic spending deserves the headlines. Maybe he's not that far off. And again, tell me if I'm going crazy.
No, I think you're making a good point, and the speed and that tactical advantage that he has are going to play well in a lot of these longer races. I absolutely get him. And if he blows up this field, I think you're exactly right. I mean, obviously, I put him in the mix, but was going to try to take others against him at the presumptive prices. But we'll see. Japan's another one that, for international viewers, potential arbitrage opportunities here, looking at the different markets and prices, because I've got to think Japan's going to be like a pretty heavy favorite in overseas markets, which, I'm not nearly as thrilled at. I was taking the David Aragona 9-2 line pretty literally when I put him on top. But maybe Tribhuvan over there ends up being 6-1, and at which point he'd become the no-brainer play. So you really got to pay attention and see if you can figure out what's happening when it comes to this race this year. Anything else on this matter? We ready to move on to our pay race?
Just real quick, a question for you. What do you think of Moretti? Is he a de facto MTO, or do they actually go here?
It's a great question. I was hoping he'd go. In picking against Tribhuvan, I was hoping he'd go, because I do think his only chance would be to lead, and it would put pressure on Tribhuvan. Now, Tribhuvan might be able to shake him loose and go on with it. It's not like Moretti being in the race and going to the lead makes it impossible for him to win, but I was taking it literally. I don't think there's a world in which we're getting enough rain from here to push this race off. But maybe at the time of entry, somebody was just being optimistic. But I kind of don't think so. I feel like he's in here to just see what they got. And there's enough. Look, there's some talented horses in here for sure. But you just look at this division over the course of the last 2 years, and the idea that you'd want to just take a wild shot with a horse like Moretti, that sounds smarter to me than it does silly, if you catch my drift.
100%.
So I think that's what we got going on there. Let's talk about the Travers, my friend. Signature race of the Saratoga meet in so many ways. We've got these 3-year-olds. They're going 1.25 miles for the Midsummer Derby, one of my favorite races. I've only missed it. I've missed it actually twice, not just the COVID year. I did miss it one other year, but I've been here for every one since about 1996. And I think this could be a memorable edition of the race, but I think it's going to be memorable because I think it's going to be where Essential Quality really asserts himself as the best in his division, at least until this point. I think this is a horse who just has to move forward off the last race. I felt like that was the time he was maybe going to be vulnerable, and he still won, getting what I thought was a very tricky trip. I think he moves forward in the second start of the meet for the race he was primed for, at the distance he's going to be better at. I think they're all running for second. Call me Team Essential Quality.
I'm right there with you. This is going to be a pretty large bandwagon that we've got going with Essential Quality on Saturday. I feel like he had everything possible go against him, in my opinion, in the Jim Dandy, and he still won. That's going to be a race, to me. You're going to look back and say the half-length margin of victory is as deceiving as it could possibly be. I think he was 3 or 4 lengths the best. There is a part of me that wonders if he loves Saratoga, and that's nothing more than conjecture. With the way that Luis Saez had to ride him around that far turn, we've seen that in the past, that some horses, just for whatever reason, they don't love it. But I also think it may be a little bit of a crutch for me to even throw that out there, simply because he's traveled everywhere and run his race everywhere. So why all of a sudden would Saratoga be something different? He's supposed to win this race. And to be honest, it would almost be, we're at a situation now, in my opinion. I said it going into the Pacific Classic last week. You need to be, it's the time of year to put up or shut up. You either belong in the Classic or the Breeders' Cup conversations, or you guys need to sit back and sort of reassess what your actual long-term goals are. Essential Quality is going to go to the Classic, I would think, no matter what. But this is an opportunity for some of these other horses who are more lightly raced, or perhaps don't have the sort of CV that this horse does, to at least throw their name into the hat and say, you know what, the Classic, maybe we can't beat Essential Quality, but we can run third, we can run fourth. That's what I'm more interested in seeing. If for whatever reason this horse loses, then all bets are off. And I think you got to start really looking at that division going, it's Nick's go, it's Hot Rod Charlie. Maybe you give Essential Quality a mulligan depending on how poorly he runs. But if he, for whatever reason, loses, I think it just kind of adds to the top-heavy nature of that group.
If I made you pick an alternative, who would it be?
Yeah, look, I thought long and hard about this. I went through, and there are so many things that I don't love about some of the other horses. I really was impressed with Dynamic One. I thought that run in the Curlin was strong. To me, he wants to run 10 miles, never mind a mile and a quarter. The concern is, how far back is he going to be? He's not the horse that is, most blessed with early foot. I think he is a proper stayer. And you can make the argument, the Curlin, you look at the way the race was run, the last move was the winning move. So perhaps a horse like Miles D you want to give a little more extra credit to, because he moved first and Dynamic One followed him. But I was just so taken by that stretch run of Dynamic One's. I don't know if it's enough to win. But to me, I've done a little analysis. I've had to write a couple things. It's a cold 2-4 punch. I think it's Essential Quality over Dynamic One.
I like the sound of it. It's creative getting Dynamic One up in there. I'm not ready to fully give up on Midnight Bourbon's chances in this race. I mean, it's a bit of a story, and I'm not saying he was going to necessarily even go close in the Haskell, but he has excuses for these last couple of races to me. I mean, that, if only being off the layoff and and obviously just a race where we don't know what would have happened in the last furlong there. Again, not saying he would have won, but it might have been a race he could have benefited from. But the Preakness was a pretty good race, attacking that fast pace and just going down to the perfect trip winner. And if you accept it through that lens and you build in some speed figure improvement for the months in between, there's a world in which, I'm 80-90% through Essential Quality, but I'll have a couple of lines.